Navy SEALs don't usually pray, nor do they fear the dark. But that night, as I opened my door, a hardened SEAL stood there, eyes wide with terror. We were in an old German barracks, a place with a sinister past. Whatever haunted those walls had broken him. What was meant to be a routine stopover turned into a nightmare. Inside, the air was thick with an unseen menace, a presence we couldn't fight or flee from. It felt as if shadows were alive, watching our every move. The drive to the barracks felt like the start of a spooky story. We arrived in a beat-up van, with the late autumn air feeling cold and hinting that winter was near. The sky was a heavy, gray sheet, almost like wet concrete, hanging over the base. Dead leaves blew across the road, making dry, rustling sounds that reminded us fall was ending. The barracks stood ahead, a big concrete and steel building that looked worn out and tired. It wasn't like other neat and tidy barracks. This one looked like it had been through a lot, and had its own tales to tell. As we got closer, the windows looked back at us like empty eyes, some covered in dust, others boarded up, hiding whatever was inside. The metal railings were rusty and falling apart in the damp air, making the place seem even more neglected. Only one window on the second floor was lit, flickering like an old bulb about to burn out. We all noticed it. The only light in the otherwise dark building, but no one mentioned it. The light flickered again and went out, leaving the building in darkness. It felt like the barracks was warning us about the shadows inside. When we got out of the van, I felt a strange knot in my stomach, a feeling I wasn't used to, even after facing real danger in war zones. This was different. Like the building was watching us, deciding if it would let us in on its secrets. As we picked up our bags, someone joked about staying in a haunted Nazi hospital, and we laughed nervously. When we walked into the lobby, the air changed. It felt like we stepped into another world where normal rules didn't apply. The first breath inside tasted like dust and old cleaning supplies stuck to the tiles. The lights above buzzed with a sound that got into your head, much like the uneasy feeling that had been with us since we arrived. The atmosphere inside the barracks was like nothing I had ever felt before. It was as if the walls themselves were holding a breath, waiting to let out secrets that had been hidden for a long time. The air felt heavy and seemed to press down on us as we walked deeper into the building. At night, the barracks showed its true colors. When the sun went down, the place seemed to come alive, revealing a more creepy side. Doors creaked on rusty hinges, making spooky sounds that echoed through the halls. Unlike other barracks filled with the noise of soldiers and equipment, here there was a haunting quiet, only broken by the occasional thud of something we couldn't see. My dreams were strange and scary, with shadows moving around in my mind and voices I couldn't quite understand. These weren't the usual nightmares from being stressed or tired. They felt like old memories trying to come back, each night becoming stronger and scarier. I often woke up at exactly 3 a.m. to a loud crash against my door, my heart racing as I watched the door, waiting for something to come through. The fear I felt was different from anything I had known before. It was raw and real, like something alive that fed on the worry it caused. It wasn't like the fear of battle or the excitement of a mission. It was deeper, an ancient fear that made me realize that this place was really haunted by something evil. The barracks came alive each night with strange things happening that we couldn't explain. Objects would move on their own, just out of sight, and the temperature would suddenly drop, reminding us of the eerie presence in the building. Even the toughest of us, used to military life, found ourselves speaking in whispers and looking around nervously as we all dealt with the mysterious things happening. In this spooky place, we were all the same, facing a fear we didn't understand that seemed to come from the very walls. The hallway looked normal, with closed doors and buzzing lights, but it felt different. The silence was deep, like it was swallowing all sound, leaving just a faint electric buzz. It was a place where echoes seemed to stay, like whispers from the past trapped under the concrete and steel. As I walked down the hallway, it felt like I was hearing the end of a heated talk. The whispers were low, male, and far away, more like impressions than actual words. But they felt real, like they were part of the building. This strange sound faded away, leaving a heavy silence, as if hiding secrets. My breath came out in white clouds in the cold air, showing how chilly it was. The air felt heavy, like just before a storm, full of anticipation. It seemed like something was there, just out of sight, moving with me quietly. When I checked on my teammates, they were asleep on their bunks, not knowing about the strange things happening outside. Their steady breathing was the only sign of life in the otherwise empty hallway. Back in the hallway, I felt like the shadows were watching me, noting everything I did. Back in my room, I locked the door and sat on the bed, looking at a shadowed corner that seemed more occupied than it should. It was a creepy feeling, like someone, or something, was sitting there, watching me with a curious gaze. This wasn't just normal fear of the unknown, but a deeper, scarier dread that settled in my bones and wouldn't let go. Every night, I would lie down, tired but wide awake, waiting for the scare that would wake me up at exactly 3 a.m. My heart would race as I watched the door, expecting something to come in, but nothing ever did. It was a cycle of fear and pretending it wasn't there, making me super alert and tired. There was something there, something we couldn't see, but it was real. It felt like a game, with an opponent I couldn't ignore. Even though I was alone, I felt a heavy weight of the unknown, something no training could prepare me for. This wasn't a fight with weapons, but with my mind and soul, against something unseen. One night, I felt desperate. I was alone on my bunk, phone in hand, feeling like it was my only connection to reality. I never thought I'd make this call. I'd faced many threats that I could tackle with my skills, but now I was scared of something I couldn't see or touch. So I decided to call my brother for help, which felt strange and humbling. As I dialed, I paused, feeling like this was a big deal. I had faced danger without fear before, but now, dealing with the unknown made my hands shake. It wasn't just an old building. It was the heavy fear of the unknown pressing down on me. When my brother answered, his voice was a comfort in the strange world I was in. I told him the weird things happening, feeling both unsure and desperate. Saying it out loud seemed odd, but it made it feel more real. My brother listened quietly, his silence steady and reassuring. "Man, I've never dealt with anything like that," he finally said. "But my pastor has. I'll have him call you." He suggested he could help, which felt both comforting and a bit embarrassing. but I was willing to try anything to get rid of the hidden fear in the shadows. The next day the pastor called, his voice calm and casual, as if it were no big deal. The night after I followed the pastor's advice, I walked through the dark halls with his voice on speakerphone, echoing around the empty space. He spoke prayers in the name of Jesus, and it felt like the air around me was changing. The unseen presence seemed to get stronger, the shadows growing darker as if they didn't like the words. In the kitchenette, I did what the pastor said, putting olive oil on the door frames, my hands shaking with each touch. As soon as I took my hand away from the wood, the heavy feeling in the air disappeared. It was replaced by a calm that spread through the barracks like a gentle sigh. It was a surprising moment of peace in the middle of all the chaos. That night, for the first time in many days, I slept well, without any of the usual disturbances. It taught me that not all battles are fought with strength. Sometimes they require faith and prayers to face the unknown spiritual forces. When I went back to our room after the night's strange ritual, the atmosphere felt different, both noticeable and comforting. The heavy silence that had been suffocating was gone. The air felt normal, like any other military housing, with its familiar, stale smell, cheap paint, and the distant sounds of plumbing. That night, for the first time in what seemed like forever, I fell into a deep sleep. There were no mysterious footsteps echoing in the halls, no sudden noises waking me up in fear. The tight feeling in my chest was gone, replaced by a deep peace. The next morning, during our usual sleepy conversations, one of the guys commented, "The place feels better today. I actually slept." Though his words were casual, they carried a shared sense of relief. None of them knew about what I had done the previous night, but the change was clear, showing the power of belief and the strange rituals we sometimes rely on when we're desperate. When my buddy noticed the oily sheen on the door and asked about it, I just shrugged with a small, knowing smile, choosing to keep the details of my midnight efforts to myself. It was enough to know that whatever had been haunting us seemed to have been put to rest, leaving us in peace. The barracks forced me to face a new kind of fear, one that couldn't be explained away or fought with usual methods. This fear crept in at 3 a.m, challenging my training and my understanding of what's real. The experience blurred the lines between reality and imagination. As we drove away from the daunting silhouette of the old barracks, I felt a sense of relief mixed with the crisp autumn air. The building, though shrinking in the distance, still loomed large in my mind. It was like leaving not just a physical place, but a chapter of confronting an unseen struggle that tested my beliefs. The barracks, with its eerie atmosphere, had been a place of unexpected revelations. It challenged my understanding of fear and made me confront something intangible, something I couldn't combat with traditional means. The experiences there were surreal yet undeniably real, leaving a lasting impression on everyone who had been there. Reflecting on the events, the oppressive atmosphere, the strange phenomena, and the desperate measures we took to find peace became part of my story. It reminded me of the forces beyond our understanding and the humility needed to face them. The memory of that place stayed with me, a haunting reminder of the unclean spirits at play in our world. Yet it also left me with a deeper understanding of courage, one that goes beyond physical bravery to include the strength to confront the unknown with faith in Christ and the help of others. Leaving the shadows behind, I carried with me a newfound respect for the mysteries of good and evil, and a renewed faith in God.